Going live. Going live. Alrighty, cool. So we are going to get started in 2 minutes. Hello, and welcome to the very first CMU CS Academy live Q&A session. This is going to run for the entire week. We're offering it 3 times a day, each day, 9:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 5:30 p.m., all in Eastern Time. We look forward to getting to interact with all of the classrooms that choose to come on and participate in this with us. We do have some ground rules that we'd like to set before we get started. So we would like to request that classroom teachers post student questions into the chat. And all that we should see coming up into the chat are questions that students have for our students. So today I am here with Janet, Harleen, and Maya. They are all students here at Carnegie Mellon University, and they all also work on the CMU CS Academy project. So before we start with the live Q&A, they're going to give you guys a little bit of a background on who they are and what they do here at CMU. But this is really meant to be a chance for you all to get to know our team and ask them some questions, especially if you're thinking about what you want to do when it comes to college and why they chose to study CS-related fields, all those sorts of things. So I am Erin Colley. I'm the program manager of CMU CS Academy, and I am very excited to be here today with all of you. So Janet, why don't you start out by sharing a little bit about yourself?
Cool. Hi, I'm Janet. I'm a junior studying design at CMU, and I've been working on the project for, I think, a little over a year. And I've been working on the UX design team, currently the team lead for that. And also recently I joined the content team, so I've been helping with some of the creation of the exercises. Oh, and I'm from Toronto. I'm Canadian.
Awesome. Thanks, Janet. Harleen, how about you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Harleen. I'm a senior studying computer science with a minor in language technologies here at CMU. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, which is just outside New York City. On the team, I've been here since I was a freshman, so that's like 2.5 years, I think, now. So I've been on here for a while. I originally worked on content, and now I work on the dev team.
Awesome. Thanks, Harleen. And Maya?
Yeah, hi, I'm Maya. I am a junior at CMU studying math, and I'm from Bangalore, India. I worked on the project for about a year now, almost a year, so a year in January, and I'm on the content creation team.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. So while we wait for some questions to come in through the chat, I do have a bank of some that I think would be great to ask myself. So the first thing I'm going to ask you all is, what is your favorite part of working on the CS Academy team? Harleen, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I started working on the project the summer after my freshman year, after it was recommended to me by someone else on the team. And working on the project that summer was really, really exciting because it is relatively new in terms of a project. And so being a student and getting to have that kind of like impact as just as a freshman and being able to see things that you work on show up on the website and have students around the country and now even across the world be using it was really exciting. Now working on the dev team, I really enjoy the fact that creating new features are things that teachers really, really want. And then creating the feature and then seeing that the teachers are using it and liking it is kind of exciting. So getting to just be able to be a student and take the work that you do and see the rewards and the results from it is something that you won't really get in like a real life job, I guess, because things are a bit more larger scale. So you can't really have as much of a direct impact.
Thanks, Harleen. Janet or Maya, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's really been cool to kind of see like how exercises. I kind of like think about how I'm kind of like putting concepts across to students, and I think that's really cool. And also, it's kind of helped me like push my creative boundaries a little bit because I'm not super artsy, but being on the content team means that you have to be a little bit artsy. So that's been pretty cool for me because it's been like a very new experience.
Awesome, thanks. Janet, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Just to add on, I definitely agree with everything Harleen and Maya have said. It's great to be able to like push what you're learning at school and kind of apply that in a really real and tangible way and getting to see the experience of like having something you create show up on a website is super rewarding. I've also really enjoyed getting to talk to some students, but a lot of teachers as well, and seeing how they're using the platform and how they're enjoying or how they're interacting with kind of the stuff we've created, and that seeing that kind of getting the ability to talk to users has been really good from this experience for me.
Awesome, thanks, Janet. We have a question in the chat from Colin Wilson's classroom saying, what is the biggest challenges for you working on the team? Does anybody want to grab that?
I can grab that. I feel like this is kind of not really a challenge, but sort of a challenge is that I get really excited to work on the team and working on stuff for the team. That sometimes I'm like, oh, my homework, that doesn't matter. And instead, I just kind of focus on my work for the team because it's just so exciting and so much fun to work on. So sometimes that is quite a challenge. I don't know if there's anything that I would say is like a necessarily bad thing about working on the team. I would say just sometimes finding that balance between classwork and working on the team because I do want to do so much for the team, but I have to remember that I'm also a full-time student. So that's definitely something I would say is a quote unquote challenge.
Thanks, Harleen. Does anybody else want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say time management, I think, is in general a challenge at CMU. And I know at anywhere trying to do like full-time studies and part-time work. And I agree with Harleen that the stuff we do at CS Academy is very exciting. And I feel like it's very important, the work. And so sometimes you forget that you have homework for school.
Awesome, thanks. I think this is a great opportunity to lead into some questions about your life at CMU. So does anybody want to walk us through what a day in your life at CMU is like? You could even talk a little bit about the differences between what it's been like since coronavirus and everything, and what it was like previously during more normal times. Thanks.
I guess I can go ahead again. I guess before Corona and after Corona, my schedule has definitely changed a lot because before Corona, I wasn't just sitting in this chair doing my classes. I was actually able to walk outside and go different places. So I guess I can go through a general day before Corona and then kind of say what the differences were. I usually woke up around like 8 to 9, but honestly, like that might be a lie on some days because I might sleep in. And it is like really flexible to do that in college because depending on when your classes are, you don't really have to get up. Normally classes are in the morning / afternoon, so those are kind of like what take up your day to day. So going to classes, going to meetings. We have like our CS Academy meetings. So every couple days I'll have some sort of meeting related to CS Academy. I also am a TA, so sometimes I have office hours in the evening. And so that's also something that I have. And then usually after my office hours and maybe later at night, I do make sure that I am able to like relax a bit, maybe watch some TV or do something with a friend. That has even not changed after Corona. So I do try to do something with a friend, obviously just within my room, but still trying to be able to have that kind of connection. But yeah, I would say like during the day, mostly doing classes, and then in between classes, working on homework. And then in the later afternoon, maybe some sort of meetings related to clubs or activities that I'm part of. And then later in the evening, could have office hours, might not. But then for group projects, maybe we'll meet in the evening as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Harleen.
I can like maybe talk about my day and how it's like changed since Corona, because I'm back in India and everything's just like, you know, time zones and it's all flipped. But yeah, when I was on campus, just like Harleen, like, you know, you get to walk around, you get to do things, you get to take like little breaks that you don't like realize that you're taking, I guess. Just like walking from class to class, you don't realize like how you know, de-stressing or like the break that it gives you. And then when you're at home, it's just like you're just like always at your desk, typing all the time, staring at a screen, in Zoom meetings, which is, I mean, I think like we've all kind of adjusted to it at this point, but like that's been, I think, the biggest struggle. And yeah, other than that, my schedule is like pretty similar to Harleen's, I guess, like just a normal student day, going through lectures in the morning and afternoon, and then I, you know, a couple of like club meetings and CS Academy meetings in the evening, and then more homework, which is fun. So yeah.
So Maya, what time is it for you right now?
It's actually, oh, sorry, it's actually not bad. It's like 10 p.m. So we're good.
How are you balancing attending things that are in crazy times for you? Yeah.
So I mean, I think CMU professors have been really like good with making things asynchronous, at least like for me. So a lot of my lectures are kind of recorded and like posted online pretty like, you know, pretty promptly. So like as soon as I wake up in the morning, I can just like watch the previous day's lecture. But I do like attending live lectures, which has been a bit of a challenge because they're like my latest lecture was at around like 1:30 a.m. and I was like, and I really liked attending that lecture live, and it was just like sad. But yeah, now I think I've gotten used to like watching the recorded lecture and pretending like I'm in a live lecture, which is fun. And yeah, other than that, I think just I've pushed my sleeping schedule a little bit, which is fine. But you know, I'll hopefully be back in Pittsburgh next semester, so that'll be good.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. Janet, do you want to add anything?
I guess I have a really interesting schedule at the design major with like studio-based classes. But I guess it's kind of similar in the way that classes are usually in the morning, and then in the evening I'll either be working on CS Academy or I'll be in studio making stuff for my design classes.
Awesome. Thanks, Janet. We have a few really great questions coming into the chat. The first one that I'm going to start with is, what are some big events that have happened recently, or what have you been working on? And I think this kind of is meant to fall into both cool things that you're doing for CS Academy, but any personal programming projects that you're either working on or that you've done and you're really proud of, and if you could describe them a bit. Does anybody want to take that on first?
I'll go. I'm taking a speech processing class right now, which I was really excited to take. And for our most recent homework, we had to create a speech synthesizer using our own voice. And so that was really interesting because like it does take a lot of recorded sentences to be able to create a good synthesizer, but I recorded about like 150 sentences, and I'm able to have my speech synthesizer at least sort of say things that sound like kind of correct, which was really cool. So I thought that was really exciting, and I'm kind of excited for the future homeworks of the class. And yeah, I'm just taking a lot of really cool language technologies classes where it's actual like applicable to real life kind of thing, like doing translation between different languages and stuff like that. So it's really cool to be able to work on that. For CS Academy, I've been doing a lot for the dev team on creating new features in the teacher portal. So stay tuned for that. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I know that a couple of them are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully that's helpful for teachers.
Cool, thanks so much, Harleen. That's a really awesome project.
I guess I can talk a little bit about, I'm not going to talk about my CS Academy related projects because they're the same, well, similar features that Harleen is developing, which the design team is designing and we don't want to reveal. But for personal projects, over the summer, I worked on learning how to do some web development so that I can create a portfolio website. And it was really interesting for me to take some of the stuff I was learning in my CS classes and then have a really concrete application to my design work, which some people like say isn't really related, but there are definitely ways to apply programming skills to different disciplines.
Awesome, thanks so much, Janet. One thing you could talk about too is a little bit of our process. So the design process passed off to the dev team. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So I guess there are many different ways a feature begins getting implemented, but one of the really common ways is like we either get a ticket on Freshdesk, which is basically when a teacher like requests for something or asks for something and we realize there's a problem here or there's a specific need here. New features also come from when we do PD events or we as the UX design team like talk to teachers and interview them and see what they're lacking and what they kind of need. And then those kind of concerns get bounced around in the UX design team. We come up with iterations and different ideas for what this new feature or solution could look like. Sometimes we'll do some user testing and we'll talk to teachers about stuff we're designing. And then somewhere in that process, we'll also go talk to the dev team, talk about feasibility, see if what we were thinking about is something that is manageable and fits into the system. And through that conversation with the dev team and Aaron, as well as teachers, we kind of come to some sort of design that we will then pass off to the dev team for them to try to implement.
Yeah, I guess I can also talk about how then when we take the design, how it comes to fruition. So we have these bi-weekly meetings with the UX team where we kind of talk about like, oh, what are they working on? What kind of things are on the horizon for us to be implementing? As well as, are there any features that we've implemented that they have some sort of comments on, like how we should go about designing those things? Because sometimes there are features that come up in dev and we don't realize that it needs maybe some design influences. So then we'll bring it to those meetings and ask for some advice. Then once we have the design, someone on the dev team will kind of take the task as their own and start implementing on it. Depending on how big the task, this can take anywhere from 1 week to multiple weeks. And then once that's finished, we create a way for the lead dev team, the lead dev member, Evan, to be able to look over the feature, make sure that all the functionality's there, make sure that it looks all right. And then if there are any Spanish translations that are needed, then we actually ask the Spanish translation team to then come in and translate any strings that we have that are now appearing on the site that didn't appear there before. And then it gets pushed to the productions, and then we get to see if any teachers are finding it useful, as well as we can add it to the weekly update if we believe that it's something that's like super important and something that we think that teachers will be really excited about.
Cool, thanks, Harleen. And Maya, maybe you could talk about a personal project and a little bit about the content creation process.
Yeah, definitely. So a personal project, this isn't super recent, but the summer before the last, I basically worked on this little web platform where we used NLP techniques to basically like parse resumes and like extract like entities from them. And for me, I was like super new to Python. So this is like the first time that I ever like actually saw something happening in like real life using Python. And that was very cool. And I kind of learned a lot about like machine learning and like using data, which was really fun. And about the content creation process, it's been pretty exciting, pretty interesting for me. And how I guess like a week would go is we kind of like get a task to create an exercise for a specific module, whether that's CS1 or CS0 or APCSP or whatever. And we kind of, you know, it's either just like left to us about how like what kind of concepts we want to cover and what like area we want to cover, or we're kind of like told specifically you want to like replace this exercise, or you want to work on an exercise for this new module. And yeah, and then we just spend, I guess, the first like 3 or 4 days of the week ideating and bouncing ideas off of each other on the team. And we usually have a meeting that has like a critique. So we all show little drafts of our exercises and everyone gives us feedback on it, which is really fun. And sometimes a little bit harsh and scary because you're just like, wow, okay, I just coded this. I don't know if it's good. And that was me like in the start. I was like, wow, I did not know how to do this. But it's been a really interesting journey. And then towards the end of the week, we, kind of push our exercises and then we test them. And then we put them on the site, which is very fun. Students get to use it, which is cool.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we've got a few more great questions coming into the chat. Let's start first with outside of computers, so outside of CS and the whole world of coding, what are some of your favorite hobbies? What are some things that you guys do for fun?
I guess I can go first. I really, really do like watching TV. Like, this is not like a couch potato watching TV kind of situation. I just really enjoy watching like different TV shows and like being that person that's basically IMDb, where like we'll be watching something and then they're like, oh, I've seen them in something, and I'm like, I can list every TV show that they've been in. So I find that kind of fun. I really do like to cook with my friends. So trying new recipes and doing that on the weekends is really fun. I also I like going on walks as well. I think that especially during Corona time, like going on walks is really nice. Like I had a picnic in the park the other day and that was like really nice before it got super cold. And I also do some needlepoint. So I also have that kind of like old lady vibe in the in my room.
Harleen, on the topic of TV shows, didn't you or aren't you running a student course?
Yes, I am.
About that and what student courses are at CMU?
Yeah, so at CMU we have something called a Stuco, which is a student-led course where you can get 3 units, which is basically 1 credit at other universities. So it's kind of like the equivalent, where you can teach basically any topic you want. Obviously, it has to have some sort of like merit as being a class. Like you have to create a syllabus, you have to like have grading schemes. So like it is still like a process. It's a pass-fail class for the students. But I'm teaching a course on the Kardashians because I find them very interesting. To just watch. Like, I don't necessarily think that they're great role models or anything, so I'm not pushing their agenda or anything, but I really find them entertaining. Today in our class, we're actually having a debate on who the best Kardashian is, so I'm very excited to see how that goes. Maya, if you're trying to take it, like I'm teaching it next semester as well, so take it. Take it next
I'm
semester.
so taking it. Me and like all of my roommates are going to take it. Yeah.
Please do. I need the students.
Thank you so much, Harleen. Maya, do you want to share a little bit about your,
Yeah, for sure. So outside of, I guess, school and academics, I've really been into music. So like even growing up, I learned classical music. And then when I came to CMU, I was like, okay, I have to like keep singing. I have to figure out a way to keep singing. And I joined an acapella team called CMU SAS. We're an all-female identifying. So we sing like South Asian fusion music. So we sing South Asian music mashed up with like Western music, which is very cool, very interesting. It's a very like niche genre, I guess. And I think that's been like, I think the biggest extracurricular that I've been part of at CMU, because that's been like something that I've been part of since I was a freshman. And we're part of like a acapella circuit. So we compete, so we travel like across the US and we get to like have these little competitions. We've even traveled to like California and Texas and stuff. So it's been very, very cool. And yeah, that's pretty exciting. And also like performing on campus and stuff like that. And it's like a great like de-stressor, just in terms of like, if I have like a long day of work, and then I have acapella practice from like 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Like that's like what I look forward to like the whole day. So yeah, one main thing that I do, I guess, outside of CS math.
Thanks, Maya. Janet, you want to share anything?
Yeah. I guess a few hobbies I've picked up outside of school have been baking. I love making cookies. Big biscotti fan. And I make a lot of like arts and crafts because I like working with my hands, and so doing that has been fun.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we've got some comments about the student-led courses being awesome, and I'm glad we had a chance to share that because that is very unique to CMU. Which brings us to a good question of what made you want to attend CMU over other universities. So if you could share a little bit about your decision process there, that would be great.
Yes, I am very excited to tell this story. As you can see, I'm wearing my CMU sweatshirt because I love CMU. So when I was a junior, I did like a summer program at Cornell, kind of talking about different engineerings. And I was like, oh, engineering's kind of cool, but I think I really like computer science the most. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll take AP Computer Science as a senior and see what happens there. And obviously that's like during the time when you're applying to college. So I kind of head dove into computer science without really thinking about it fully. And I'm really happy that I made the decision. I applied regular decision to CMU. I had visited the summer before my senior year. And I just like fell in love with the campus. Like a lot of people say that our campus isn't the most beautiful, but I do think like, I don't know how to explain it. I just like was walking on campus and I felt like a vibe. I feel like that's like a huge part of college admissions is like feeling a certain vibe with respect to the school. And I don't know, but the vibe I felt on CMU campus and the students that I talked to, even though it was over the summer, it just made me really, really want to go there. So when I applied, I was like really, really excited. And my mom actually took me and my sisters to Florida, like to Disney World the days leading up to my decision because she could tell I was like super, super stressed. And the day we came back was when the decisions came out. And it was at like midnight Eastern time. And when I opened up the email, I fell out of my bed because I didn't expect it. So CMU has just always been like something that was like super, super exciting to me. Getting to work with language technologies was also a huge factor because in the CS school, we have like different departments and the Language Technologies Institute was there. And that was something I was really interested in. And they also have like a really huge emphasis on interdisciplinary. And I didn't want to just always be working on the computer all the time. I didn't want to always be doing computer science. So getting to also take like linguistics classes and being able to connect those things through the language technologies was really, really exciting. And I just feel like there's not a very big competitive environment at CMU. And that's like a huge thing for me. I didn't want to go to college and always be competing with my peers about who got a better grade on the test. Like everyone's there to help each other. Everyone wants to support each other. And there's just so many resources that are there to help you support each other, not just the professors supporting students, but students supporting students. So I think that was like really unique to CMU. And also being in Pittsburgh is really nice because there is a lot of like good food here and our student IDs get us like free things a lot. And as a college student, free is like a magic word. So being able to go to like museums for free and ride the buses for free is really, really nice.
Thanks so much, Harleen. Maya or Janet, do you want to share?
Yeah, I can go. So I guess for me, I went to high school in India. So I guess I was like considering college in India and in the US. And I was like, I don't really know. And I think like as a junior in high school, I was like, well, I just like do not know what I want to do. I did like, so I guess the Indian high school system is a little bit different, but I did like science in junior and senior year of high school, which is like physics, chemistry, and math. And so I loved physics and I loved math. I was not good at chemistry, but I loved physics and math. And I was like, okay, like I know that I want to do something with these two things in college, or maybe just one of them. But I kind of want to have, I want to have that time in college to like figure it out and like, you know, enter my freshman year and then like take different classes and then see what I want to do. Instead of kind of just like diving into a curriculum, which is, I mean, it is like changing, but a lot of colleges in India kind of have like a set curriculum when you enter, like you get in for engineering and you like only do engineering. You don't have like an option to kind of, you know, go out of that. So out of, and I think for me also, I always had like this kind of inkling that I wanted to do something with computer science. I was like, I love CS. I know that I want to take CS classes in college. It's super interesting. I didn't get to take CS classes in high school, unfortunately, because my school didn't like offer it. But I did like a lot of coding like on my own through like Khan Academy and stuff, which was cool. So I knew that that was something that I wanted to do. And there were like a couple of seniors who went to CMU who were from my city. And I kind of like spoke to them about it, and they loved CMU. And I think one thing that they really emphasized is like what Harleen said about like the fact that the culture isn't like super competitive. It's like more collaborative. So you learn a lot from like the people around you more than like competing with them, which is really fun. And I think like for me and coming to CMU, it's been like, it's really been cool because I feel like I've learned more from like actually just having discussions with my classmates or my friends or my TAs than actually just like, I mean, attending lectures is cool too. It's great. But I feel like I've just learned so much more from the discussions that I've had because everyone's just super passionate about what they do. So yeah, when I got my admissions decision, I was very excited. And then when I came to CMU, I'm still a math major, but I'm taking a lot of CS classes, which is very fun. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. Janet, do you want to share it all?
Yeah, I just wanted to strongly echo what Harleen said about being an interdisciplinary school. And I think that's where like CMU really shines. And for me was like the deciding factor for why I applied early decision actually. I think it's rare to find a school that's so strong in engineering, humanities, computer science, and the arts. And it kind of gave me the freedom to think that I wanted to do design, but I could also poke around in all these other areas that the school was also very strong at. And through that poking around, I somehow ended in computer science and doing some design and some computer science. And so having the freedom to explore and find areas that fused different parts of my interest was a big reason for choosing CMU for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janet. And kind of building off of that question, I thought it might be nice if you all talk a little bit about being a female in a STEM related field, maybe a little bit about that at CMU and just in general, how you've kind of, navigated that path.
Yeah, for me, at least in high school, when I took APCSA, which is the CS in Java class for high schoolers, I was one of 3 girls in a class of like 24, and that was pretty common for CS classes, especially at my high school. And so that wasn't really like super abnormal. And I knew that like, especially even in the industry, that things were kind of like that as well, which is obviously really sad because it would be great to be able to have a place where it was 50-50, not only male and female, but also like considering minorities and having a good representation there as well. Coming to CMU was absolutely amazing for that. We have a exactly 50-50 CS class. So when I came in, there were 200 freshmen and 100 of them were women and 100 of them were men. And a lot of people might say like, oh, by doing that, don't you like lose the quality of like the students because you're not admitting as many guys as you used to? And that is definitely not true. If I'm honest, like the women are pretty spectacular. And I definitely would say that like, if I could be as smart as some of those other girls in my field, like it is absolutely great. And we do have like a lot of opportunities for equality in CS. Like there's never really that moment where you're in a class and you look around and you're surrounded by just boys. And that can be really nice because you can feel like there is like that common thing where you're in a room with all guys and you're afraid to speak up. And I feel like at CMU, at least, I've been getting better at speaking up regardless of who's in the room. But having that support from the other women in the room definitely makes it easier because then at my internships where things aren't necessarily 50-50, but things are a little bit better than the 3 to 24 of my high school, I'm able to at least confidently be able to speak up at meetings and things like that because I was able to kind of get that support when I was in college. So I definitely think that CMU is doing really well in terms of women in STEM. And there's a lot of really good organizations like SCS for All, Women at SCS. There's a Society of Women Engineers as well. And we do send students every single year to the Grace Hopper celebration. So that's a really awesome thing for women in STEM to kind of take part in, because it's basically just a giant conference for women in STEM. So it's pretty exciting to be able to be a woman in STEM right now, especially at CMU.
Thanks, Harleen. That was an awesome response. Maya or Janet, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I super relate to the 3 to 24 ratio when I was in high school. So I went to like a super small high school. So my like graduating class was actually just like 30 students. And we had like 22 girls and like 8 guys. Like that was like the ratio. But then within like my stream, within the science stream itself, there were like 3 girls and like all of the 8 boys, which obviously like isn't as crazy as the 3 to 24, but it definitely was like weird, because I was like, okay, like if you look at the actual class ratio and then like within the stream, but you know, that was like a bubble. It was just like 30 kids. Now when I came to CMU, it was just so amazing. Like you can, I mean, it's not just like a statistic, like you can actually see it. Like you come in, like you take CS classes and you have like these amazing, like my first 2 freshman TAs for concepts were Nina and Lisa, who were like, and like, I just love them. And for me, I think having that representation and like seeing that there are women who are like working in CS, working in math, and they're like so amazing at what they do. I think it just gives you a lot of confidence in terms of like, okay, like that's like a role model, I guess. I mean, like they're like, and I think like that representation has really helped me just kind of come into my own and not be like nervous to speak up. And like, I feel like in high school, I used to be like nervous to speak up because I used to feel like if I said something that was like not that smart, then I'm kind of like representing like all women because there are just like 3 of us. But it's just nice to have that that split and have like that diversity. And it's always just amazing.
I do want to add on to something that Maya said about her freshman concepts TAs. So something that's really special to CMU is that in our School of Computer Science, we have mainly undergraduate TAs. So that means that it's not a grad student who's never taken the course that is doing this for some sort of credit that's teaching you. It is a student just like you who took the class either the last semester or within the last semesters as well. And even on those core staffs, we are getting very close to having 50-50 in male and female. And that's something that's like absolutely amazing. Like I know for concepts, at least I've been a TA for that course for now three falls in a row. And last year when we were getting applicants, we really wanted to make sure that it was 50-50, depending on like what kind, like obviously with some wiggle room, depending on like how great people were. And we got to a point where we were actually trying to figure out if there were any other boys we could hire. Like we were running out of boys to hire. And I just thought that was really funny because we basically had to create like an affirmative action for the guys instead of for the girls. Because previously, like 3 years ago, the course had 8 boys and 1 girl. And now we're at 24 with 12 and 12, I think, about. And that's just like absolutely awesome because these freshmen that are coming in are seeing their TAs that are not just guys, and like they can see that there's women in STEM that are doing things that they can do as well. And so I thought that was like something that was very special to see me as well.
Thanks so much. Janet, do you have anything you want to add?
I guess I just wanted to repeat that having those role models who are women or non-binary, being able to represent kind of people who have leadership roles as like TAs or even professors has been really powerful at CMU. And I would echo that in high school, I think we also had like a pretty poor gender balance, but I haven't noticed it as much at CMU because of the amount of, I guess, representation that we have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to kind of shift focus a little bit here and talk some more about programming languages. So what programming languages are you using a lot in your courses? And some questions about some hardware. So Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, do you work with them at all? And what kinds of things are you doing with them? So languages and hardware.
Yeah. Something I would say is actually special to CMU is that when you take a course in CS, it's not, you're taking this course to learn Java. Like it's not really like that. They're not, you don't take classes to learn programming languages. You take classes to learn how to think about programming using a particular language. And so I think that's like super exciting because you don't spend the entire semester just learning this is how you do a for loop in C, this is how you do a while loop in C. It's very much like yes, there is a steep learning curve because if you've never used the language before, you do have to kind of catch up, but there's so many good tutorials that like even full-time developers are going to be Googling on Stack Exchange, like how to sort list in this language because no one remembers. So it's definitely okay to not be like proficient in every single language. It's more about knowing how to reason about your code and knowing, oh, if I want to complete this task, what kind of thing do I need to do? So I think that's like a really good thing about CMU is that I'm not just taking classes to learn programming languages. It's almost like those are like a side effect. I would say like for the most part, I've used like Python, C, C++, Java. I've used some Ruby in my internships. Obviously doing web dev, I've learned like HTML, JavaScript. Like the thing is like I could list any language because I could probably learn it within a couple of days because languages are, once you know one language, it is really easy to kind of extend that knowledge to other languages. Like I'm pretty sure before coming to CMU, I did not know any Python. Honestly, when I showed up to CS Academy, I didn't know any Python. And I kind of just taught it to myself while creating exercises to teach other students to use Python. So it's not really something that like matters. Like having on your resume that I know 20 languages is not gonna make a difference if you know like only 5 or something like that. It's about what can you do with those languages, like what can you do as a programmer. So I would think that that's like a really important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I can add to that. Well, yeah, I mean, I completely like, I mean, the whole thing of like you take a computer science class to like learn concepts of programming rather than like the actual like syntax of the language. That's something that like I've experienced at CMU, which is really cool because I've taken you know, I've taken like a Python course and then I've gone into like C and then SML, which is weird, but yeah, it's been very interesting because you just kind of see all these different like things in computer science through like the lens of different languages, and like the actual like language itself doesn't matter that much as long as you like remember to like put in your like semicolons and like do that stuff, like you're good. And yeah, so I've mostly used Python. That's like the language that I've had like the most experience in, even in like internships that I've done. And I've also used C a little bit, and a little bit of Java, and that was kind of like self-taught. I kind of had to like teach myself Java because my sister is taking like a Java course this semester, and she's a freshman, and like she just keeps coming to me for help. So I've had to like learn Java, which is fun. It's pretty cool. And yeah, so I think like those 3 languages have been like my main coding languages. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can repeat what Maya and Harleen have said about, you know, the computer science courses at CMU teaching you more about like how to think algorithmically and how to think through your problems rather than teaching you syntax. I think some point freshman year, I had taken this course in Python, and then I was like really bummed because I was like, man, all the designers are like writing stuff in JavaScript. I should have taken a course that taught me JavaScript. Like, what am I going to do with Python? Um, but then I kind of came to the realization that, oh, they're all programming languages. They all have very similar structures, and the computation is, and the way to think about it is like very similar. And so I went ahead and I taught myself JavaScript through what I had learned from CS classes that were in Python. And right now I'm taking a course in C, but I don't think really what I'm going to get out of that course is going to be like how to write code in C. It's going to be, you know, learning these new data structures and algorithms and how to solve new types of problems.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. What about hardware? Anybody have any?
Yeah, I personally have not done anything with hardware. I know a lot of people who do stuff with Raspberry Pis. I would say that the electrical and computer engineering majors would probably have something more to say about using hardware because I know there's this class called like circuits, I think, and they have to actually like, or not circuits, it's like signals or something. I forget the name of it because I'm not an EC. But they actually have like a board, like some sort of hardware that they have to like work with throughout the whole semester. So they definitely have more experience with that. So probably I think we do have EC majors on staff. So probably within probably at the other live Q&As, they'll be able to answer something like that. But I don't know if Janet or Maya have experience with that.
I can talk a little bit about Arduino. I think the big prototyping kind of thing that design people use when making like quick prototypes of stuff is we get into Arduino a lot. And I have a little bit of experience in that, but like not much. I think it's similar to other programming languages.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with hardware either, but I've definitely like seen a lot of stuff, especially like when I like took one, like I like TA 112, and like all of the students at the end they do like this term project, and like a lot of my like students wanted to do like hardware stuff, and like I didn't know anything, but I kind of had to like you know, help them through it, figure out what was happening. So that was like that's been like my only experience with hardware, kind of like helping people even though I don't really like know what's going on. But yeah, pretty much.
Awesome, thanks. The next question that I wanted to touch on is around what's next. So you're all studying CS and design. What are your goals for when you graduate? What are you hoping to do career-wise? And we do have a specific question, and I don't think anyone is involved in cybersecurity, but maybe if you know of friends that are, like what track they're on at CMU, things like that.
Yeah, I can kind of talk about that. Since I'm a senior, I kind of have to figure out my life right now. So it's a little bit scary, but I am going to be working in Seattle as a full-time software engineer starting in August. So I'll be moving there if Corona isn't still a thing, or I'll be staying at home in Connecticut until Corona is no longer a thing. But yeah, I'm going to be working as a software engineer. I'm really interested in language technology, so perhaps down the line I could potentially get a like master's or something and go back into that. But I don't think I will, because I've taken already a lot of the master's courses in language technology, so I feel like I already have a lot of that knowledge. But I think maybe eventually I could actually go into product management. So working on CS Academy has actually been really helpful in learning that, because I wasn't really sure what product management was or anything like that. But after being on like CS Academy and like leading a content team and stuff like that, you kind of get to learn firsthand like what that kind of role is like. And also watching Aaron do it is also another thing. So I think maybe eventually I could also go into product management. In terms of the cybersecurity thing, in CS, there actually is a part of your curriculum that requires you to take a logic class. And one of the logic classes is like two of the options are security classes. So there is actually a concentration you can do at CMU CS in security. And so that's really cool because we do have like an entire security lab in one of our buildings. And so there are professors working consistently on cybersecurity and stuff like that. So a lot of students work on research in the security and stuff like that. And so that's like pretty cool as well. And I took a security course that was more about like proving things that are secure, which I thought was really interesting. And I know that there's like a lot of professors that are in the security field as well. In terms of like what you can do with that kind of thing, a lot of people sometimes, if they're really interested in security, will then get a software engineering job at a company that focuses on security. So like, for instance, like Duo, the company that basically does our two-factor authentication at CMU, you could work for a company like that, and then you could learn how to do security. But security is also something that's going to be involved in any software engineering job you do. Like even at my internships, when we're considering things to put in a database, for instance, we're like, well, is that personal identifiable information? You have to make sure it's secure, things like that. So it's definitely easy to kind of combine security with anything you're working on.
So I'm a junior, so I have a little bit more time to kind of think about what I want to do. But as of now, I've been applying to internships for next summer. I think that's like my main goal right now. And nothing's like really finalized yet, but you know, stuff is happening and it'll all be finalized by like mid-November. So like hopefully that goes well. And yeah, I do see myself in like a software engineering role once I graduate. And I think that, I mean, I'm not like completely sure exactly which part of the industry that I want to go into, but I definitely think that like I want to kind of experience multiple areas if I can over like the next couple of years. And yeah, and I do see myself like sticking with CS and software. And yeah, pretty much.
Thanks, Maya.
Cool. I'm also a junior, so I also have that a little bit of more time to try to figure out what's happening. But I think through working on CS Academy, I've realized how strongly I feel about educational technology. And so I hope in the future to continue to be involved in that in some way, even if it's not at like work, maybe through some nonprofit or something.
100% agree with the educational technology thing. Like working on CS Academy has been like, okay, that's what I want to do. Done. Like, I want to work on educational technology. And I just wanted to address the question about the software engineering versus a programmer. I would say like programmers aren't really like necessarily a thing anymore, in the sense that like programmer used to mean like you sit down, they tell you write this code, and you write that code. Software engineering is a bit more than that. Yes, you are writing code mainly from day to day, but there's also design involved. There's also reasoning about what can happen. There's decisions you're making about the products. You're writing requirements, you're talking to users, you're doing a lot more than that. So you are kind of there for the entire process. So like I'm actually taking a software engineering course right now. And you're probably wondering like, what do you learn in a software engineering course? And it's exactly that. You're learning how to write a good design document. You're learning how to reason about what things are important for your product, what quality attributes are important, things like that. And those are all like super big necessary skills that you need as a software engineer. It's not just about writing some code. It's about like knowing how to solve certain problems, and how to make certain decisions about the software and the product and what you're going to be working on.
Harleen, would you also say there's a certain level of problem solving required and not?
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like problem solving is like the biggest thing. Like, oh, so great, you can code a while loop for me in like 2 seconds. That's awesome. But can I give you a problem, and can you figure out what the best solution would be? Can you reason about the trade-offs of like runtime versus space? Because those are kinds of things that you have to think about in the real world. Like, yes, you could write like a program, but is it efficient? Is it good? Like, is it up to the standards that are expected? Like, things like that are definitely super important. And knowing how to solve those kind of problems, knowing like, oh, we need to create this feature, but it conflicts with something else. You need to know how to reason about the problem, and you need to know how to come up with solutions for it and trade-offs and things like that. So there's actually a lot of writing involved with being a software engineer. Like I've written design docs in my internships, and that's definitely a big part of writing, of being a software engineer. It's not just writing code all day.
Thanks. And the last thing that I kind of want to wrap up with for this session, because we only have about 10 minutes left, is thinking back to your high school selves. What sort of advice would you give yourself looking back when it comes to deciding if college is the right fit for you, what college is the right fit for you, what you want to study, things like that?
Yeah, I guess I could talk about that. High school was a long time ago for me. That's kind of crazy. It was like 4 years ago. Like I graduated in 2017. So I feel really old right now. I would say like a big advice I would give is a lot of times people get kind of sucked up in the whole idea of rankings. They're like, oh, I want to do this. I must go to the best school in the entire world. Otherwise, I am worthless. And that is not true. Like, yes, I'm saying that as a member of Carnegie Mellon School of Computer Science, which is a top ranked university, but I'm trying to speak in general. Like, when I tried to apply to colleges, I feel like a lot of people were making me feel really nervous because they were like, oh, well, I'm only applying to like the top, the best of the best and things like that. But there's also a lot of really good things you can get at like smaller universities and things like that. And I would say like, even if you can't visit a university, at least try to learn as much as you can about the actual student life and the actual university and process that happens at the school. Because once you're in, you're in college. Like going to college is your time to kind of do what you need to do. Like, even if I went to a small state school, I would still be trying to show that I'm passionate about what I'm doing and work through things. When you go into the industry, it's not all people that went to Harvard. Like, that's not how it works. There are people from all different schools. So it doesn't really matter like the exact school you went to, it's what you do with it when you get there. So I would say try to create your list of colleges that you're applying to based on that vibe for sure. Like, if you can visit, the vibe you get on the campus is a huge part of the decision. Like, it doesn't matter if they're ranked lower than another school that you didn't vibe with, like that's totally fine. And like, to the people who like apply to all the Ivies, like I just don't think that that's really reasonable, because each school has a different like student life. Like, each school has a different vibe, and if you apply to all the different types of vibes, like that's not really like helpful for you. Also, applications are really expensive. Don't apply anywhere you don't actually want to go to. um but yeah, I would say like, also don't be afraid to be undecided. Like, it is totally okay to be undecided in college. Like, there are people who change majors, there are people who do things like that. If you end up at a school and you don't like it, you can always transfer as well. Like, I feel like transferring is super frowned upon, but it happens. Like, I have a friend who transferred. A lot of people do it, and it's just part of life. So I would just say, don't get too caught up in the name of the university. Try to figure out what you want to do. If you know you like STEM, okay, maybe apply to a school that has like a sciences college where everything's kind of together, so that you can easily kind of like switch between it. But if you end up deciding that you're interested in something else, you can try and transfer but within the school. And if not, you can figure out a way to kind of bring that major or that type of thinking into yours. Like, I know a lot of people who are in math, like Maya, but she's doing a lot of computer science. She's able to bring that into her major because that's what she wants to do. So it's really about like making sure, like, even if you don't know what you want to do as a senior in high school, try to come up with some semblance of an idea of what you want to be working on. Like, it doesn't have to be super specific. Like, you don't have to know you want to do computer science, but if you know you want to do engineering, then maybe apply to schools with engineering and try to find a couple of different majors that seem really interesting to you and apply to those. So it kind of like gives you a little bit more flexibility, and you're not so stressed about being 18 years old and knowing exactly what you're doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely. And like building off of what Harleen said, I feel like to a large extent, college is definitely like what you make of it. And once you like are kind of set and you're like in a college, there's a lot of opportunities, especially like in a lot of colleges like across the US, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of like explore. You know, I mean, I've taken like, I mean, I love history. I don't think I'm like extremely good at it. I'm not great at writing, but like I love history, and I got to take like 3 history classes at CMU, which was so fun. And I think like that's like an opportunity that like a lot of colleges have. So just like remember that, I mean, one, like don't get caught up in the name. It is definitely, you know, after a certain point, once you know that you like want to be in a certain area and you apply to colleges that are kind of like maybe more focused in that area, like that's cool. But after that, you know, it's all about the vibe for sure. And it's about, you know, what you decide once you go there and what you kind of want to make, what you kind of want your college life to look like.
I do want to add to one thing that you said, and now I'm forgetting what that even was. So that's great. Oh, a lot of majors have a lot of interdisciplinary requirements, even at CMU. Like, I'm required to take a certain number of science classes, I'm required to take a certain number of humanities classes, but they give you a lot of free range in terms of which ones you can take. So like, I've taken a lot of linguistics classes, and I really like that. Like, I'm really happy that I got that opportunity to do that, because if they didn't tell me that I had to take humanities classes, a lot of people might never explore those things. And so I think it's definitely important in college to force yourself to kind of take more of those different kind of classes. You might have in high school been like, oh my God, I hate English, I hate history, I don't like to write. But then you come to college and you take a course and you're like, because you made the decision to take that course, it gives you a different perspective on like how to actually feel about it. Because by taking that history class that you want to take, you're already expressing an interest that you may not have had in high school. So definitely don't be like afraid to kind of open up your boundaries and take different classes, because if you don't like it, drop it, take a different one. Like, it's really easy. Like, you can just switch around all you want to do, take a different class. Like, even if it doesn't apply to your major, like, you can take a class that's just like a free elective. Like, go for it. You have the time to do it.
And I think building off of what Harleen and Maya have said, my piece of advice would be to not be afraid to be different. I went to a very strong, like, I guess, science and math, engineering, STEM centered school. And then senior year, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go study design in the College of Fine Arts. And I think it's okay to be different as long as, you should really be choosing what you like to do, because you're going to spend a lot of time working on it, not just in college, but after college. And even like in design, choosing to be kind of weird when we got to do our like free electives and saying, I'm going to go take computer science classes now. And everyone saying, no, why aren't you taking more design classes or art classes? And I'm like, no, I'm going to go take CS classes because that's what I like and that's what I like doing. And so being like very confident in yourself and being okay with how different you may be and exploring your interests is super important in high school and in college.
Also, it's okay to change your mind. You can always change your mind. If you thought you liked computer science and you actually decide you don't, that's totally fine. You can switch to anything you want. It's always easy. It's always available to you to change your mind.
And you can also change your mind the other way. In high school, I hated computer science. I was like, no, I don't like this thing. But then I went to college and I was like, maybe I should give it another try. And then, my mind has been changed.
Yeah, a lot of schools have a CS requirement as well. So every student at CMU is required to take 110 or 112, which is our intro CS courses. So taking one of those, you might realize all of a sudden, oh, I do have this CS kind of like vibe that I want to go with. So it's definitely something you can just explore while at school.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thanks everyone that participated in the chat and helped make this a super awesome Q&A session. Before we sign off for today, I just wanted to share this quick little image. We are going to be running these sessions every day this week, so Monday through Friday, 3 times a day. So take a screenshot, do whatever you need to do to remind yourself, but come back, you'll see other students from the team and get to hear from them about their experience as well. So thank you all so much, and we're going to sign off now.